All right, everyone, we have another special guest today. I'm coming here live with you with MacKenzie. So I'm going to have MacKenzie introduce herself and kind of tell us what she's going to be talking about today so we can get to the details. So, MacKenzie, let the audience know who you are, what you do, and who you help.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. And thanks for having me on your podcast. It was awesome to meet you last week. And just so excited to meet your people and everybody that's in the group. So we own a virtual assistant platform that is US based. And so what that means is we hire US based virtual assistants and pair them with busy business owners and small to medium sized businesses globally. And so we do all things administrative. Most business owners kind of get to the point where they are sick of wearing every single hat in their business and then just want to kind of focus on the reason they went into business in the first place. And that's kind of where we come in. And we teach them. A lot of people are uncomfortable with delegating, especially when you don't know the person and your business is your baby and this is how you make your living. And so we work with them to delegate the tasks so that it can become much more second nature, and so that they're able to view their assistant as just their right-hand person. The assistant gets more comfortable with the business, and then they see things thrive much quicker. They're able to scale quicker. They're able to reach more clients and work with more clients because they are now no longer dealing with the back-end administrative that goes with their business. So that's
a mouthful.
Yeah.
Well, the members of the group and anyone listening to my podcast have always heard me talk about how wonderful it is to have a VA to delegate things out. I was just talking about with someone else earlier that there's certain tasks that I know I'm not good at, and delegating it out is 100% better because it saves me time and it saves me money in the long run, because people are like, but I don't want to hire because it's so time consuming to find someone, and then it's also very expensive. So what do you say to people that think hiring someone is way too expensive and it's not worth it?
Super glad you brought that up. We say the exact same thing. People often say, I can't afford to invest in a virtual assistant. And we often say you can't afford not to. People are buying all of these programs they don't know how to use and will never know how to use, paying hundreds of dollars to have these programs that are supposed to be X, Y, and Z, but in the end, they're really administrative heavy. And then having to work all of these programs simultaneously with running their business. And so what we have found out with several of the clients that we work with is that we're able to kind of also pare that down. Our goal is that you're using that human capital to run your robots, right? Because all robots need supervision too. And we can kind of point you in the direction of robots that are affordable and going to get your point across. We're also a Wix affiliate, Wix websites. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of business owners that kind of think, okay, I'm going to customize a website right out of the gate. I'm going to, I'm going to get every CRM possible. I'm going to, and they're hosting all of these things, meanwhile, having zero clients. And we're kind of like, you don't have to do that. You can start with a program, even like Wix, that can build out a website, manage all your contacts coming in, web emails, the whole thing's kind of right there, super affordable. And as you grow and you see kind of what your clients need, you kind of adjust from there. So that's another goal that we set out when we have clients. If they have things that are working for them, that's great. But if they have things that are not working, we really kind of try to say to them, hey, here's another option that would be cheaper until you are really bringing on income. And then one of my roles too, I'm not actually a VA anymore, but a lot of the clients that we've had, we've been able to establish this portion of what we offer to help them pull out the streams of income that they have so that their assistant can work those things while they're bringing in money. So I tell people a lot, we're not marketers per se, but there's so many ways that you can use a virtual assistant once you identify your audience and identify what your offer is, that it skyrockets much, much quicker.
Yes, and I think that's the biggest part for me, like having a VA just do things that I could easily do myself. That's not the thing. But to me, is having the extra time to do a million other things. So,
Right.
people know me for my podcast. People know me for my photography. People know me for in-person events. So it's like I'm constantly doing a million and one things, and I don't want to worry about the minimal things like scheduling a post on Facebook or scheduling a post on Instagram, or worrying about those things that actually add up over time. And like graphics I was terrible at making graphics, so I hired someone to kind of teach me how to do it because I
Mhm.
wanted to make the graphics, but I wanted them to be spectacular. And
Mhm.
I was like, I give up. That's not my forte. I'm a visual storyteller, but I cannot put these animate objects together. It just doesn't look right. So I'm just like, it's okay. Just you do that and I'll do my other stuff. So, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, when people scale, they'll find out they have less time to do those things that are really minimal but are required in a business.
That's such a good point. And the idea that, because it's true, people start their business and they find a lot of value in some of these smaller things because they are new to it, but then realize, this is not the best use of my time. I could have been over here doing this, but instead I've spent all day doing this, rather than just offloading it to somebody who can really get it done very quickly too. And that's the other part about cost. I think people don't realize hiring a virtual assistant is not like hiring a secretary that sits at her desk in your office all day and you pay 8 hours, whether they're on lunch or on Instagram or whatever, at all. They're only working, or they're only getting paid when they're working. So their work equals tasks delivered to you. And they can also do personal. They are administrative, so that includes business and personal. A lot of business owners also have personal tasks that just need to get done, and they don't have time. They hate doing it. I always tell the people, there's a story of one client that we have, and we call her son at college and wake him up every day. That's one of the tasks that's on the list because she doesn't have time. It needs to happen. And so, yeah, they call every day until he picks up and say good morning, and that's it.
That is just amazing to me. Oh my god. But
Mhm.
like it's the things like someone I know just hired a VA to run a laundry service because like for them they don't have time to do laundry. Now, I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to be the person washing someone else's underwear, but
Mhm.
if anyone here does their own laundry, it takes time. Like there is
Right.
things you could do while you're waiting, but like if you're like me and you forget when the washing machine is done because my washing machine doesn't have anything to tell me it's done,
Oh
those
God.
wet clothes can sit there all night because I'm trying to do a million other one things. So like VAs or any professional, hiring a professional in general can save you time, money, and just heartache because for me, I tell people all the time, like, hiring me to take your product photos is super important because one, I know what I'm doing, and two, like, you can focus on your part of the business because
Mhm.
I look at all the behind the scenes of people doing it themselves and like, oh, well, I don't have the money to hire out. And I go, you do realize that those 4 to 8 hours a week you're spending creating those content photos and those captions, you can have someone else do. And that's 4 to 8 hours that you can spend with your family, do more business time, something different. So, hiring in general is just the better way to go. And people are like, but I don't have the investment. Well, if you're not investing in your business, you're never going to grow.
What are we doing here? Yeah, exactly. It's that is just so true. The idea that if you have a business, you have to be willing to make that investment, and that's also human capital. And just, if you can hire out, you should hire out if it's not within your expertise. That's just how it works. Totally agree.
Yep. And I think another thing people talk about hiring professionals, and this is something I'll ask you so you kind of understand this, is they're always afraid of being scammed. So I'm sure you understand there's this whole vortex on Facebook where you have all of these Facebook group owners that have people pay so they can promote on the wall because they have so many people in their group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a scam per se, but they're using a model that people think that just because there's so many people in the group, that means they're going to get a lot of traffic. So when people just randomly DM someone, say, hey, or say, for example, I did this. I go into a DM of a soap owner and say, hey, I'm a product photographer. I saw your products. I would really love to work with you. Let's connect. That's different than saying, here's my offer, buy it now, or it's going to be full price soon. So,
Right.
people are afraid to hire too because of those people. And I think that's why agencies like yours are very important, because you do the background part
Mhm.
that people don't have to worry about. So, like, I went through an agency with my VA because there are like hundreds and thousands of VAs that post in Facebook groups. And I've
Mhm.
also seen a lot of people like show their good work, but then when they actually give the work to the client, it's not the best. So, in your eyes, going through an agency is better because why?
Yeah, I'm also excellent point. That's the entire reason that we even went into this business. We started in 2016, and prior to that, when I had my first son, I was home and then found virtual assisting that way, and found out that it's very much the wild wild west when it comes to who you can hire and how you can hire. And there was clients getting scammed, there were assistants getting scammed who would do work and not be paid. And so, yeah, so we created what we feel like is a safeguard around all of it. So for us, for clients that come on, they have a guarantee that we are vetting and background checking assistants that are on there. We vet them based on their resume. So we know that these skill sets are the skill sets they have. And if it turns out that that's not, they don't stay with us. That's done. We're done. And then they also have a layer of protection we don't just sort of dump them off on the assistant. Or with the assistant. We have an operations manager and a humans coordinator and myself. So it's not like they are just willy-nilly. We build it out as a team. And so even as we bring on more assistants to serve more clients, those all become a part of the team that we pull skill sets from. So we really get to know each other pretty well. And we really kind of get to know what people's strengths are, even to refer them. So when we have clients come on, they're like, I'm really looking for this, or I really need this kind of person. Or we have one client who just doesn't like to message, doesn't like to email. They want to get on the phone. And you'd be surprised how difficult it is to find assistants who want to get on the phone. But they're willing to pay for the hours to sit on the phone, but they need somebody who's willing to sit on the phone. And so pairing people like that based on just what their own objectives and personalities are is important on our end.
And I think that's important. So, like, me and my VA are very well connected because she has a photography hobby, whereas I'm a photographer. So, it's kind of, we can talk and understand the same way. So, you matching people based on needs is very important. And I think it's also important, and I talked about this in my live on Instagram today, why it's important to network. So people are constantly just posting and posting and posting, but not doing the deep dive connection. And I
Right.
think that's why it's very important. You talked about how you're helping and supporting the team, because you don't just want to match two random people that have never met in their lives. And now you are entrusting your business in this random person. And I think people don't stress networking enough and connections enough. So in the group in Facebook that I run, I have a monthly networking event, and everyone's so excited and says they're going. And then when we finally get to the day of it, they don't take the time to come. And for me, I feel more bad for the people not showing up, because it's like you just missed an opportunity, because networking is not just about finding clients or finding customers. It's also about that connection of referral. That's what made me think about it when you said referral, because people really need to know each other, and you could be a third line connection. So, like,
Mhm.
someone I met this morning, she's like, oh yeah, I live in South Africa. I'm like, okay, well, there's no chance that I'm going to work with someone from South Africa, but I work with a lot of people in the States. So there it is, connection.
There
So
you go.
by judging where people live is not going to be very comfortable. And I think that's where you're getting at the agency part. That's where I'm trying
Mhm.
to stress, is that safeguard for both parties, because I don't think people realize that the VA doing the work or the administrator doing the work and not getting paid is a huge red flag, because if that's the type of business owner you are, do you think a lot of people want to work with that type of person? So
Right.
it really helps both sides. I think it's really important that people realize that, because if you're staking time and money and effort into this, you want something to come out of it, but you also want to build that bond and structure so that you can hire another professional and another professional so you can grow as an individual as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. People really do underestimate kind of how networking works. And truly, it really is all about networking. And we've also found that too. You never know who your VA knows. VAs work with all kinds of clients. And when I
Mm-hmm.
was a VA, I paired clients together for events and for all kinds of stuff that still do business together right now, So you just never networking even within that circle is thriving. Mm-hmm.
And that's how we met, was a networking event. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a perfect connection and letting people know where you find people. And that's why I'm constantly finding new ways to do networking so people can meet new people. So since I'm getting off task of what you talk about, but since you were a VA before and now you have a VA agency, how has that growth impacted you? So how did flipping I mean, you're still in the same field, but I think you're flipping what tasks. So what did you find was positive out of that change, and what did you find that was totally different with that change of going from a VA to running an agency?
Yeah, so I'm also a person who's been an entrepreneur forever, and so but also worked in corporate and that kind of thing as well. But so for me, it felt so natural to be like, I bet we could provide this need because something's missing, and I bet we could do this. And I also really, really love the idea of being able to create jobs for other people, and a lot of them ended up being similar to me, or being in the same sort of situation where you needed a work-life balance. You have kids that are at home, and your kids are little, and that kind of thing. But you still want to be in the work world. You're still, have your college education, and you're still a professional, and you miss that. So how do you bridge that gap? And virtual assisting seemed to be an opportunity to do that. And it's also what I love about the agency aspect is it's just an option, right? So if you are a virtual assistant, and we tell all virtual assistants this when they come to work for us, we're like, how far do you want to take your virtual assistant area? You work for us and we find jobs for you. That's what agencies do. We pair you with people. We connect you with the work. But there's also other branches of virtual assisting. You can hang out your own shingle. There's always this talk of virtual assistants making $50 an hour, right? And VAs are always like, is that realistic? And I was like, could be, but that comes about when you really kind of get in there, you hone your craft, and you meet the clients that need that skill set, and then they're willing to pay you $50 an hour for that skill set. So there is room to grow a virtual assistant job into what you need it to be. And so we also love to just we do a lot of trainings. We do a lot of what's the latest social media. We do a lot of just continuing to help virtual assistants hone their own niche. The world of the internet has given all of us this sort of opportunity where the world is flat, and we can all kind of work together, and we can all contribute to these businesses. And like, we met each other, and
Yep.
your title, I was like, that is so interesting. I've not heard that, but it's, so it's been a pleasure to meet just so many different types of people doing so many different neat things, and then being able to plug in to where we're able to push that forward from the administrative end.
And I think that's very important for the whole basis of community, because my podcast is called "Adding Chrome to Your Community." So, like, being able to this business help this business, and this business help that business. So interconnecting everyone together,
Mhm.
no matter what experience level they're at, and it really, in my world, it really amazes me when I meet so many people that do so many different things. And even like if I meet one copywriter, the next copywriter I meet is a totally different copywriter, or the web designer I meet is totally different than this other web designer. So I would love to be a VA just for the simple fact of meeting a bajillion other people and sitting behind a computer, but then I would feel bored and I don't need to add another task and be overwhelmed. But the point that I'm trying to get to is VAs kind of are the soul to that. And I think like anytime you hire, you're interconnecting two things. So say for example your VA Emily connects with Anna. Well, now Emily and Anna's networks are combined. And then say Emily introduces Anna to Savannah, then it's another combination of people. So you're actually networking in itself because you're opening your wings to new opportunities. And I think money holds people back. But if you are a successful entrepreneur and you really want something to work, you would do anything that to make it work, except for quick money schemes because those never work. But as we get to the end here, I just want to give you an opportunity to tell everyone either more about your agency or how you would like people to connect with you or anything that's coming up that you want people to know about.
Yeah, feel free to connect. Our website is cascadevirtual.com. And if you wanted to email me, I'm MacKenzie at cascadevirtual.com. We're always looking for awesome talent to pair with business owners. We are also always looking for awesome business owners to connect with and do good work for. So, or if you know anybody who needs a VA, we also have a pretty interesting referral program that I'd love to chat about as well. So please, anybody feel free to reach out. We hire in the US because we're a US based agency, but we can serve anybody.
That's the awesome part. And I thank you, MacKenzie, for coming on today. And like I said, we need to keep in touch because you never know what things can happen between the two of us. But I thank you and I thank everyone for watching today. If you have any questions that are geared towards MacKenzie, please drop them in the chat and I will get them to her so she can answer.
Thank you for that. Oh,
yeah, we already got a question. So when it comes to personalities, when the task-oriented person that is not warm and fuzzy clashes because they don't go beyond their appointed hours of work, how do you solve that? That's a weird question.
Yeah, it felt like a couple questions. So there are boundaries, right? So virtual assistants are not robots. So they can't work 24 hours a day. So there are boundaries around time zones, and those are usually set up, with the client. Kind of, they work out, where days are available and how that works. But if there's a clash, or if an assistant, similar to any work world, if a person's not working out in that role, one of the another great things about working with an agency, you the client are not kind of like, oh, great, now I have to go find somebody else myself. You would let the agency know, and we would send over more resumes or even recruit based on the skill sets and tasks that you need completed, and then pair you with that person. And so, yeah, we've had some clients that say, they're very, very specific on what they need, and they're willing to try people because they know they're rigid on what they need. And so they've gone through, I think, 3 or so assistants until they found the one that they were like, okay, this is the one that I want to stick with. And the assistant also felt very comfortable with that work climate. And then it worked out well.
I think that was a good answer to their question because they just gave a smiley face. But I think it's important for people to know it's not a perfect system, but you have a say in that matching. And I think that's the important part, is because, like, even though on paper that person might be a good fit, that personality thing comes through the training. Like when I had to onboard my VA, we came up with a code system and everything so that if she was feeling overwhelmed or didn't understand a task, we would just message back and forth about it rather than her getting frustrated about something. Or there's always some system you set up in place, and that's the agency's job to make sure the client is satisfied, and they're not going to just leave you with someone that has a not warm and fuzzy personality. But most VAs also that I've come across are usually more of introverts, but know how to be professional extrovert. So it's one of those things that people will kind of just go back and forth. So I think that answered their question. So
Oh,
but if there is any more questions, I will let you know that pop up after this. So thank you again for coming, MacKenzie, and
yeah,
it
thanks
was
for
great
having
to
me.
see you again.
You too. Bye.